So, what if I told you the secret to getting more done isn't actually about doing more, but doing less? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful idea that could change how you see pretty much everything. It's called Essentialism, and it comes from McKeown's fantastic book. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's start with a question that probably hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. You ever have one of those days? Or let's be real, one of those weeks where you are just constantly moving. You're answering emails, you're running to meetings, checking things off a list, but when you finally get to the end of it, you just kind of look back and think, what did I actually do that mattered?
This feeling is just perfectly captured by this idea of your energy being scattered in a million different directions. Sure, you're making progress, but it's just a tiny millimeter here, a tiny millimeter there, and nothing, absolutely nothing gets the full force of your attention. And the real paradox here is that this happens to the most capable and ambitious people. Your own competence kind of becomes a magnet for everyone else's demands.
And you know what? This state of being has a name. The author calls it the nonessentialist trap. It's that feeling of just reacting to every single demand, believing you have to do it all, and ending up feeling totally overworked and, honestly, underutilized.
And to really see how deep this trap can run, just listen to this really raw, personal story from the author himself. His wife had just given birth to their daughter. He's in the hospital holding his newborn baby. But then a colleague pressures him to attend a client meeting. And because he was so caught in that trap of trying to do it all, he went. He actually left his wife and his brand new baby for a meeting that he later admitted accomplished absolutely nothing of value.
That really painful moment led him to a huge realization. By trying to please everybody, he failed the one person who needed him the most. And it all boils down to this single, powerful truth. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. It's as simple as that. Your agenda will get completely hijacked by everybody else's.
So what's the alternative to this trap? I mean, is there a way out? You bet. And it's not about becoming some kind of productivity robot. It's about a fundamental shift in how you think. It's what McKeown calls the way of the essentialist.
This whole philosophy is summed up perfectly in 3 German words from the legendary designer Dieter Rams, weniger aber besser, less but better. It's this core idea that almost everything out there is just noise, and only a very few things are truly essential. And the job of an essentialist is to filter through all of that noise to find what's truly important. So what is essentialism really? Well, it's way more than just a time management hack. Think of it as a disciplined system. The first part is all about discernment, figuring out where you can make your absolute highest point of contribution. And the second part? That's about execution, removing all the roadblocks so that doing the essential thing becomes the easiest thing to do. This contrast right here really gets to the heart of it. The non-essentialist life is totally reactive. It's driven by that thought, I have to do this. And the result is that tangled mess. You're busy, but you're not going anywhere meaningful. But the essentialist life, that's deliberate. It's driven by the thought, I choose to. It's about pausing, thinking, and then channeling all your energy like a single purposeful arrow. One path leads to burnout, the other leads to real impact.
Okay, so this sounds great, right? But how do we actually start thinking like an essentialist? Well, before we can change what we do, we have to change our mindset. And that means replacing 3 totally false assumptions with 3 core truths.
This right here is the mental reset. First, we move from obligation to choice. Instead of I have to, you start thinking I choose to. This is huge because it reminds us we're always in control. Second, we get absolutely ruthless about what matters. Instead of thinking it's all important, we have to accept that only a few things are truly vital. The rest? It's just noise. And finally, we have to get real. The myth of I can do both gets replaced with the strategic reality of trade-offs. You can't do it all, so you have to choose what you really want.
All right, so once that new mindset is in place, we can move from theory to practice. See, essentialism isn't just a philosophy, it's a system, a repeatable process for bringing that discipline of less but better into your actual daily life.
And the book offers this fantastic analogy to make the system super easy to grasp. Just think about your closet, right? If you never clean it out, it just gets cluttered with stuff you don't even like, things you never wear. Well, your life is exactly the same. Without a system for purging, all these well-intentioned commitments just pile up and create a ton of clutter. And that system follows 3 really simple steps. First, you explore. Before you say yes to anything, you broadly explore your options to find the vital few. Second, you eliminate.
This is where you become a graceful editor of your own life, cutting out the good things to make room for the truly great ones. And finally, you execute. You design a system, routines, habits, workflows that makes doing the essential thing the absolute path of least resistance.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate purpose of essentialism. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about getting more done. It's about designing a life that is truly, authentically your own.
There's this story about a nurse who cared for people at the end of their lives, and she recorded their most common regrets. You know what the #1 regret was? I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This is the ultimate cost of non-essentialism. It's not just a cluttered calendar. It's a life lived on someone else's terms. And essentialism, that's the antidote. It's the courage to choose your own path.
Which brings us to this final, really powerful question from the poet Mary Oliver. Because essentialism isn't ultimately about managing your time, it's about managing your life. So the only question left is the one she asks. What will you do with your one wild and precious life? Thanks for joining this explainer.